What's up guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Adrian. This video is dedicated to everyone who's gathering information on MBA degrees. As I did my MBA in Europe and a portion of it in the US, I have seen both worlds. I have been through this process before and I'm happy to share my experience with you. So if you're currently considering doing an MBA in either the US or in Europe, this video will certainly enlighten you and help you form a better decision. There are excellent MBA programs in both America and in Europe, and both graduates are sought by global business. In this video, I will give you the 12 main differences that I was able to observe between the both of them, and hopefully by the end of this video, you will have a better idea which destination is right for you. All the sections of this video will be in the timestamps below, so if you feel like skipping or rewatching a topic, you can easily do so. And with this said, let's dive into the comparison. Number 1, product recognition. The MBA is an American product. Some people say the US is the motherland of the MBA. Its origins go back to the early 20th century in the US, whereas the first MBA programs in Europe were incepted in the mid-1950s. So all through these years, most US employers became used to dealing with the MBA routine as a major source of talent. MBAs in the American labor market are welcomed and the degree as such is well recognized, unlike in Europe where an MBA is more like a nice to have, but not a prerequisite to climb up the ladder. Overall, the general perception from my personal experience is that a US MBA carries more weight and impresses a lot more people internationally than a European MBA. Now, that isn't to say that European schools aren't good. In fact, their reputation is rapidly growing, but the MBA degree is still considered nothing special in Europe. Here is a little anecdote that I want to share with you. When I was recruiting for full-time positions, I was utilizing headhunters. And I remember when I had this phone call with a London-based headhunter who asked me about my salary expectations. I told him that I was looking for a job that pays somewhere between 90 to 100,000 euros. The guy was laughing into the phone. In fact, he was laughing so loud that I had to hold my phone like that. Then he said, "Look, nobody's going to pay you more just because you have an MBA. In fact, they will pay you less because you've been out of the workforce for 2 years and you became rusty." Now, what would you answer to this? When I was speaking to headhunters in the US, on the other hand, and they asked me about my salary expectations, I said I was looking for a base salary somewhere between $100,000 to $110,000. And normally they would respond that I can certainly expect something between $120,000 to $150,000, plus a performance-based bonus, potentially plus a signing bonus, and a relocation bonus in some instances. That's the difference. Examples like these show how much prestige an MBA degree in the US carries. Finally, only some companies in Europe, including consulting firms, pay you a premium for your MBA. The majority doesn't care at all. Number 2, job opportunities. For job opportunities, you should break it into on-campus recruiting, often referred to as OCR, and off-campus recruiting, meaning the usage of job boards or the school's alumni network. Let's start with on-campus recruiting. While European schools have about 40 companies on average visiting campus, US schools typically have more than 100 companies on average that come on campus. This simply shows how established and appreciated the MBA degree in the US is. Recruiters outside the US tend to view MBA students as experienced candidates for specific vacancies rather than running an MBA-specific recruitment program such as leadership development programs, MBA rotational programs, MBA trainee programs, or whatever they're called. These indeed exist in Europe, but not in the same quantity as in the US. One big difference between the US and Europe is networking. In the US, it is expected of you to network in order to find a job. For this, you need to arrange so-called coffee chats, sometimes on an ongoing basis, and you need to be outgoing, attend career fairs and networking events to land literally any job. In Europe, networking, though is important, is not crucial. What you should also bear in mind, and that's very important, hiring takes place locally. So if you want to become a product manager for one of the leading tech firms on the US West Coast, I highly recommend you do your MBA at one of the top tier schools on the US West Coast. If your dream is to gain work experience in Europe, then you should pick your MBA program accordingly. The US is much more open to career changers. For instance, I've seen candidates making a transition from marketing to investment banking, even without a summer internship in IB. This would not be possible in Europe. So these so-called triple jumps, where you change the location, industry and function, are much more prevalent in the US than in Europe. Number 3, alumni and milk rounds. Both MBA models have strong alumni organizations and recruitment support, but many argue that the American model is unrivaled. And I agree. American schools have large, very well-funded alumni organizations, and their milk rounds and recruitment assistants are broader and deeper than in European schools. Because American schools are bigger and operate in a much larger economy, every blue-chip company goes to their favorite schools to seek out talent and provide big financial incentives to recruit the candidates they want. Number 4, electives. One of the biggest contrasts between European and US schools is, as I mentioned before, American schools are usually much bigger. They tend to sit on top of well-established large universities, which broaden the learning opportunities. For instance, when I was studying at Yale School of Management, I was not only able to attend business school classes, but I was also able to take classes at any other school at Yale University, such as the law school, for instance. This gives you the opportunity to acquire knowledge outside the business school and gives you the chance to expand your personal network when meeting people at other schools. This, once again, is only possible at US business schools, as they are normally part of a large institution. European business schools do not typically sit on top of a larger educational system and therefore have much fewer electives to choose from. So in most cases, you will have access to electives only at your school. Also in Europe, electives at most schools will be taken in your final year or final semester if it's a one-year program. Most US schools give you the chance to take electives in the first year as a way of preparation for your internships, which I think is great, as you can tailor your education the way you want it to be. Number 5, class size. US business schools tend to have slightly larger classes. Taking a look at US News MBA ranking 2021, the class size of the top 10 ranges from 317 to 916, with a median of approximately 520. European business schools, on the other hand, vary between 90 and over 1,000, with a median of around 330. Now, what does that mean and how does that affect you? First of all, the larger the class, the more people you're going to meet and the more it helps your personal network to grow. So, the more graduates a school spits out each year, the higher the chance that these people will end up at reputable firms, which in turn will provide prospective students potential access to these recruiters. Number 6, faculty and quality of education. The University of Texas at Dallas has created a database to track publications in 24 leading business journals, and I'm going to put the link in the description below. This ranking shows that, simply judging by their research contributions, the US is clearly leading the ranking. The top business schools of the world all have first-class faculty, but America tends to lead the field, attracting first-class authors of business books and published works because they leverage such an impressive academic base. Number 7, network. What you should also bear in mind is that the school's overall network, meaning ultimately your network, will highly depend on the location of the school. So if you plan on doing your MBA in Europe but intend to go back to the States, you won't have that many graduates placed at leading firms in the US, simply because the majority of the students stay in countries across Europe. Therefore, even if you obtain your MBA degree at a top-tier European business school, I'm not sure that the school's name would translate well in the US. So you might want to take this into account when choosing your final destination. One last difference regarding the school's network I was able to observe is that US schools have a tight-knit alumni community. It always occurred to me that when I reached out to Yale alumni, this resulted in a significantly higher response rate than at IESE. I think the reason for this is because graduates in general in the US are prouder of their alma mater than their European counterparts. Number 8, tuition and total cost. The average tuition fee for studying an MBA at one of the top-tier programs in the US ranges between $60,000 to $75,000 per year. Living expenses are quite high in the US and completely depend on the place where the school is and on your lifestyle. The average living expense in the US can be estimated at $15,000 to $25,000 per year. That does not include entertainment and traveling expenses. And trust me, you will be traveling a lot. On the other hand, average tuition fees at the leading business schools in Europe will cost about 65 to around 90,000 euros for the entire program. Living expenses depend on the place where the person lives and their spending habits. On average, it costs around 800 to 1500 per month, although London is a little bit more expensive though. All in all, you will have a range of 205 to 242,000 US dollars in the US, whereas 120 to 140,000 euros in Europe. Watch out for scholarships, there are way more in the US than in Europe. So if you're keen to try to get a scholarship to help you get you through your MBA program, the US may be a better bet for you. There are many scholarships on offer and these are open to international students as well. Number 9, lifestyle and culture. As I mentioned before, US business schools are normally affiliated with a larger institution. I did part of my MBA at Yale School of Management, which is part of the Yale University. Whereas IESE Business School, where I ultimately got my MBA degree from, is a standalone business school. A standalone business school is one that is founded specifically to advance business education. No other disciplines are taught except where they cross over into a business field. Independent business schools are much smaller and typically do not provide a fraction of the social, athletic, or other opportunities of a large university. And this leads me to the downside of a standalone business school. You are often in a bubble where the only people you know or meet are people from your MBA school. Because US schools are part of a big university, you have access to other schools and get to meet people at so-called mixers, where they organize events for business school students and law school students, for instance. Sports and sports events are also a big thing in the US. If the business school you are targeting is part of a large university that is known to have leading college teams in respective fields like football and basketball, etc., expect to have plenty of sports events which are fun to attend. You won't get this experience at a European standalone business school. But on the plus side, if the school is based in London, Paris, Barcelona or Madrid, you will be able to watch the best soccer teams off this planet, which are also fun events. Another thing I noticed was free food and catering in the US. Doesn't happen every day, but whenever there are company presentations or workshops, there will be a small buffet or pizza slices or even cookies. And trust me, there are plenty of those presentations. Number 10, class schedule. For US schools, classes are usually held Monday to Thursday, starting in the mornings and ending early afternoons. The afternoons and evenings are spent in group projects, networking events, and recruiting events. Friday is normally off for networking or traveling. In Europe, you normally have 5 days of school, packed with classes until a late afternoon, followed by optional language courses. Number 11, student body. European schools cater to a more international body of students with diverse needs and target employers around the world. While most European business schools have over 80% of international students, you will find around 40% of international students at their US counterparts. However, always take this data with a grain of salt. Business schools generally love diverse applicants. If you are in the lucky position to have more than one passport, the school will count your non-US passport, for example, towards their international student population to make their program look better in terms of diversity. So even if you were just born in a foreign country but hold a green card and have been raised and lived your entire life in the US, you will be considered an international student. By the way, this is a concept a lot of business schools apply. I would assume every school does this tweaking here and there, so it all evens out. European schools are ahead on multicultural issues such as language requirements, which I believe will be very important if you want to work in an international setting. In case learning new languages and experiencing new cultures excite you more, then you should go for a European program. As regards age, most of the MBA students at US schools are in their mid to late 20s, whereas MBA students in Europe are in their late 20s to mid 30s. Candidates tend to be a little bit older and are more experienced on average, and the age range in classes tends to be wider than at US schools. And finally, number 12, languages. Except for MBA programs in the UK, following an MBA degree in any other European language is not only a chance to learn more about a new culture, but it is also an opportunity to learn or brush up the skills in another foreign language. Regardless if it will be French, Spanish, German, or any other language, in the ever-changing globalized business world, additional foreign language skills are definitely a great plus. To sum this up, both destinations have their pros and cons. The US has the bigger MBA job market but comes at a higher price point. Europe, on the other hand, provides you with a truly international experience, but job prospects specifically for MBAs in Europe are clearly limited. After all, it's really gonna depend on you and the situation you're in and what you really need. So hopefully this was a little helpful for you. On a personal note, I went for a European MBA as I wanted to be in Europe in order to be close to my family in the event something came up. However, if I could turn back the time with the knowledge and experience that I have right now, I would have definitely gone for a US MBA, simply because of the job opportunities, the network, the lifestyle, and the overall experience. This leads me to the question of the day: what are your thoughts on an MBA in Europe or the US? What are your tips on where to do it? Let me know in the comment section below. And lastly, if you made it this far in the video and you enjoyed it and you got value out of it, it would mean a lot to me if you could give it a quick like. It helps out the YouTube algorithm, and if we can get this video in front of as many people as possible who would find it helpful, that would make me very happy. Also, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't done that already. That's it for today. Once again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Adrian, and see you next time.